welcome to Beauties and Beasties, the independent pest podcast for the UK.
Hello.
Good evening.
How are we doing?
I'm okay, mate. You? I can see a dog's nose.
How you doing?
You've frozen,
Other than,
Alex.
constant internet issues,
Yeah.
the dog's wanting to get out of my lap all the time. It's all good. I'm still suffering with the heat. I think I say this every week, but I am not a being designed
Hot
for
dog.
hot weather, which is going to be even more exciting considering that I have a work trip booked over the first couple of weeks of August to go to Malaysia and Indonesia. So
Best get your
I'm really
malaria
excited.
jabbed up. And
Yeah, I'll be absolutely swimming with vaccines. But at the same time, I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a really interesting.
yeah, cool.
Most of the reason why I took this role on was to be able to go and experience this range of pest control around the world, how things are done differently and how things are, there's different problems are found solutions to. So I'm really excited about going. I'm just not excited about the heat and the climate. So we'll see how that goes when I get there. How's your week been? How's the wasps been? Like, I mean, I keep talking about the wasps, but they've gone mental, like absolutely batty.
Yeah, not too bad. Obviously, you've got we haven't got Sean tonight because Sean's gone to, I don't know why, but he's gone to watch the cricket for some reason. And I mean, I don't even like cricket, but even I know there's no point in going to watch cricket unless it's Somerset playing because they're just going to thrash everybody else. So I don't quite know why he's bothering. But yeah, the wasps have been ticking along all right.
I was about to say that the reason that you go and watch cricket is not to go and watch cricket. It's to go and drink cider in the sun while people knock cricket balls about, and
Yes.
then occasionally get excited when one goes further than the others, or somebody gets walloped in the nads by a cricket ball traveling at subluminal speeds. So yeah, there we go. That would be my bit for it. I'm trying to think.
Yeah.
What other news have I got this week? What
So
excitement?
we got a clear now. There was I put up something today on UK pest controllers about Vulcan not being designed for wasps, and it was a bit of a reuse, wasn't it? A reissue as such for that purpose. It wasn't.
Kind of, yeah. So Vulcan was developed when I was working at Pelgar with my old man, and originally Vulcan was based on a flowable powder. Now, very quickly, I've just noticed our Facebook has broken on that again. So you might want to do whatever you did to fix it last time, Hugh, because I've just noticed that we've lost that.
Right. What did I do last time? Can't
So while you figure that out,
remember.
I'll give the story of Vulcan. So Vulcan originally was based on a flowable powder designed to go down, not necessarily up, which is why if you drop some of it on the floor, if you ever dropped any of it on the floor, it will, land in a little beady bit and you'll see it sort of like roll away from you, almost leaving a little trail on the floor.
I'm going to have to disappear a minute and come back. So if you keep talking about that, because I've got to get onto the other screen, give me 4 minutes.
That's absolutely fine.
I think.
You think? Okay. But yeah, so with that, it was designed to be a flowable powder. It's designed to go down holes as opposed to go up into things. And so it was designed for sort of like putting in cracks and crevices, to put into like anthills and stuff like that, to be able to roll and to fill a void at that point. Now, of course, the envelope of a wasp nest is also a void, but also the entrance and the exit of wasp nests tend to be at the very bottom, which means that sometimes you'll find the like Vulcan moving out. It was also designed to be put into voids as a pyrethroid to be a bit of a barrier at that point as well. So it would stop things moving in and out. So but it does work as a wasp powder because permethrin is incredibly effective at killing insects. It works on the nerve axon. It actually forces the sodium gates within the nerve axon to remain open. And because it remains open, it means you have a consistent firing of those nerve axons up until the point that they deplete themselves of all of the sodium and potassium on either side of that gate. So you end up getting basically a default setting where you can't send any more information down that nerve. So permethrin is incredibly effective at stopping insects from moving. But with that repeated fire, with that repeated exposure, you do get what's called an excitatory response. You get a repellent response and you get an excitatory response. And that excitatory response is those animals becoming exceptionally agitated in that short period of time before it has a lethal effect. And that's what we usually see with Vulcan, is that. Have you managed to get it fixed, Hugh, or do you want me to try?
Don't know. I think so. Ian's saying everything's echoing.
Okay. It's going to be one of those days, isn't it?
It is.
It's just going to be one of
I
those
know
days.
that StreamYard have been having some problems with certain things, but as far as I was aware, it wasn't with Google Chrome. Can everybody hear us okay? Not echoing on
No
YouTube.
echo. Okay.
Is anybody seeing Facebook? Because it says it's connected.
Lordy, lordy. Do we need to do a hard reset and go again?
Don't know if we can do that.
Okay, Hugh, you talk for a second. I'll see if I can do what I did last time on it.
So, is there anybody from not YouTube, from Facebook watching? Or shall I have a look and see if I can see it on Facebook? Let me have a look. Sorry about this, everybody. This is not great, is it? Let me just see if I can get it on Facebook as well. The pressure's on now, isn't it? Sorry, everybody. Can't see anything. See, it's like a well-oiled machine, isn't it?
It's completely disappeared from mine now. Oh, wait. It's coming up. It's coming up again. It's reconnecting. There it is. Here we go, guys. Oh.
How did you do that?
Ladies and gentlemen, joining us.
Yeah. I just tried to reconnect and it.
I fixed it. I did it. I have that. So everyone listening to
the
us,
Midas touch.
I'm so sorry. The Midas touch. Yeah, that's it. Facebook, as always, is having compatibility issues with StreamYard. But here we are. All you've missed so far is me talking very briefly about Vulcan. It was originally designed as an ant powder or a flowable powder over being a dustable powder for use into nests. But permethrin, which is the base constituent of it, is still very, very effective. It's as effective as bendiacarb ever was, so there's no loss in efficacy. The only issue that we see with Vulcan more than other products is because it has this exciter-repellency effect. If you don't get a direct hit onto the nest, those animals will avoid that deposit, and you see this often when you spray it around as opposed to on. The animals kiting and hawking and basically trying to avoid landing on that. There we go. Hi, Jasmine.
Awesome.
Yes, there we go. We're back on Facebook now.
So
hopefully people will be able to join us.
With it blocking, because it's blocking people's dusters, and obviously I think that it's probably, but you're better off having a duster with a reservoir at the top rather than trying to push it up through the pipe work. I wonder, would there be different carriers that would be lighter, something like a silica rather than a clay?
So there was a bit of an issue a couple of years back with some of the dustable powders having, so there's an inhalation risk with dustable powders straight away. It's why they are under pressure from being removed from the market. You don't want to take a lungful of any of these. But with that, both Ficam and Vulcan and the others all had different carriers to them. Some carriers were lighter and fluffier, and others were ostensibly a little bit heavier and more prone to this aggregating effect. So yes, one of the things I use in mine is you get them for gym shakers. It basically it's a ball about this big, and it's a big
Yeah,
springy ball
this,
like that. Yeah, and I drop 2 or 3 of those in there, and when you shake it up and agitate it, it helps to sort of like lift and aerate the material on the inside. So yes, you have that. The other
I
thing is as
chuck in
well as
those
any
little,
moisture.
those little packets that you get in things to keep things dry.
Oh, desiccant packets.
Yeah, I just if I get any spare ones that come in a iPad or something like that, I chuck a few of those in as well, just to, if it would, don't know if it ever did anything, but just to try to check there's no moisture in there.
It absolutely will, because I was about to say the other thing that sort of like tends to mess up dustable powders is moisture. And especially when you have a moisture getting in through the nozzle, or you have significant changes in temperatures, you'll end up having a condensation effect. So with that, one of the things you can do is when you are finished, if you're using something like your 5 litre DR5, other models are available, is when you've finished using it or when you've done your last job, when you've still got a bit of pressure left in the tank, turn it onto its head, give it a shake so most of the material falls down, and then clear the line so you're blowing mostly air out of that. Now, there's still a bit of dust in the line, but you'll actually then sort of like clear the line of any material that could potentially cake after that.
So if they change the carrier in some
Mhm.
way, would they need to completely re-register the whole product?
Potentially, yes, because
Mm,
it within that the formulation is you are not registering the active material, you are registering the formulation as a whole. So
right.
if you have a major change, if you can prove that that change doesn't have any impact on its efficacy or any impact on its risk profile, then you can get away with it as a minor change. But if it's a major change or it constitutes a large part of that formulation's change, then yeah, you have to go through the process of paying for a major renewal. And sometimes it's just not worth doing it. Or sometimes it's worth waiting until that product then goes through the regulatory mill again, and that's when you tend to see a lot of changes happening. When that active material and that product goes through biocides again, that's when people tend to make changes, which is why you don't see lots of little changes happening to products. You tend to see them coming in a big wave all at the same time, because people tend to lump all of their changes in when they go in for renewals.
Right.
Yeah. Another one,
Fair
Rupert says
enough.
atmospheric pressure, moisture when pressurizing. So yeah, if you are using that, so one of the things you could potentially use is a lot of if you're especially on some of these pumps, if you're using a foot pump or something like that, you can get some with an inline moisture trap on them to take that moisture out as it goes into that. So if you're using like a stirrup pump, for example, to pump up your pressure sprayer, a lot of those will come with a moisture trap to stop those that moisture coming in. But the same thing's the same way that you don't want to get atmospheric moisture inside the PCP pneumatic rifles. So you have a little air trap on the inside of that.
Must admit, I love the well, I don't really go and do anything anymore, but I did love the XL, the AR8 with the CO2 cartridges with the reservoir at the top, not getting anything going up all those through those pipes. You're not emptying out 10 million meters of metal pipe and shaking it to get it all back down through, or tipping up the DR5 and holding it on your shoulder. It's so much easier, so much easier.
Yes,
But
absolutely.
shall we introduce our
Yes.
guest?
Let's bring him on. Let's have a bit of a chat and see how he's been getting on with his wasps as well. So if you want to introduce our guest, and I'll bring him onto the stage.
So this evening we've got Ian Bright from ID Pest and, and Hope Pest ID. Sorry, Pest ID. I can hear myself echoing, so it might be the fact that you've got your sound turned up too loud, Ian.
I shall turn that down.
No
I
worries.
can still hear you.
So, Ian, welcome to the podcast. It's
Thank you
good to
very
have you
much.
on. Do you want to tell everyone a little bit about yourself? And more importantly, how did you get to pest control? Not necessarily, we'll talk about your life in pest control in a little minute, but how did you get into pest control? What was the process that led you to this industry?
It was a bit of a weird one. I was 28 years in the corporate world, just bored shitless with constant meetings, office politics. GDPR had came in, and my kids had left home, mortgage paid off. I just needed to do something different. Relatively fit and healthy, not really frightened of anything. And what could I do? Looked at lots of different franchises, and again, you have that drama with franchises. What's achievable? What's fraud? What's future proof? I just kept getting drawn back to pest control because I've always enjoyed the outdoor life. And yeah, that's kind of how. And the business model, the paying quarterly in advance on annual rolling contracts, it just seemed almost too good to be true. So I did look at some franchises, but all the best ones had gone. But there was one in particular that a guy was prepared to do something with me to release some of the area. But then Rentokil bought them out, and that kind of killed that off. I'd already started
That must have been
level
Pro.
Sorry, yes, yeah.
Okay.
A guy called Mick in Southend, really lovely guy. And again, basically I did all my learning online with no experience at all. So I had a nice big corner office, 2 screens. One I did my work, and the other one I was doing my studying for my level 2. And I actually phoned Mick one Friday and I said, look, I'm just about ready. I've handed my notice in. He said, there's a problem. We've been bought out by Rentokil. Oh, so what do I do? And he said, well, you can do your own websites, you can do your own marketing. Why don't you just do it yourself? And he was really helpful. Gave me a few gems of information, talked through the business model of it. There was another guy that was super useful, who was also in a Pro-Kill, Matt Garwood. He had a franchise with Pro-Kill as well. He was very helpful. He was going through the similar problem with Rentokil buying them out. And it just sort of went from there. Originally, the Pest ID part was Pest, Ian and Dean. It was my best pal who was the sales director for Pirelli tyres, and he was going to come over as well, but he kind of got cold feet at the last minute. And, but by that stage, I was so committed to doing it, I kind of did it and got my level 2, and it's just like, what now? And
why would you have gone for a franchise then, rather than think, right, I'll go on my own, just out of interest? Because it was already made.
I had no experience of the industry. I didn't know the pricing structure. I didn't know, and even once I got my level 2, I went on a kill germ course, starting your own business or starting out in pest control. It's kind of a bit helpful, but a lot of it wasn't really, because everyone's very secret squirrel about pricing and very open about how to do the jobs, but the actual pricing part was different. One EMV were very helpful, I must admit. I spoke to the guys there when I first started, and they really took me under my wing, really helped me out with I think they saw some belief in me and gave us quite a competitive pricing structure for starting out. I didn't expect to get any sort of discounts, and they were super helpful. But the rest of it was, I think I did my first mouse job. I created a website and I did a mouse job for 40 quid and suddenly realised, well, actually,
sorry. So just tell me, because this is the fascinating bit, because as you say, it's one of these industries that, taking that leap, taking that sort of like cold leap of faith is
scary shit.
Well, and I can totally empathise with you, because I went from a steady job working as working for one of the manufacturers to launching as a consultant. And as a consultant, there's no sort of like books. If you can't go out there, how do you do it? There's like 4 of us in the UK. It's a really sort of like small environment. So
but you know what you're talking about.
You never forget your first job. You never forget your the first job you do yourself. So go on, talk us through the very first pest control job that you did, because I'm sure that range of emotions, that email in, I need help, like, if, because it's so many things that affect, you found my website, you're wanting to spend, all of these things, and finally sort of like, here I am, just about to knock on the door of your very first client. So what was it like?
Oh, it was brilliant. It was super nerve-wracking, and I probably did far, far more than I actually needed to do. And I, up in the loft, examined everything. I took forever, and again afterwards, I did think, I've just earned 40 quid for that, and that's probably been here a good couple of hours chatting and getting to know them, and so yeah, it was good. It's exciting to actually, in real life, actually dealing with a pest problem, which we got sorted fairly quickly, and yeah, we sort of moved on from there. And then obviously we started getting more inquiries, and you start sort of bringing your prices up a little bit more and a little bit more, until you get to that point where you start losing a few, and you think, yeah, I've kind of reached my limit. And now we're certainly not the dearest in the area, but we like to think we command a premium for what we do, because we might not be the best in the industry as far as knowledgeable, like yourself, Lex, but we just put so much effort into what we do, and so we do believe we should keep our prices accordingly for what
There seems
we do.
to have been quite a big furore about prices as well lately, doesn't there? I think that comes round every year. It comes round with the whole wasp season again, and every year there seems to be this big big argument about how much you should be charging, and if you're not charging enough, or this person's a rip-off because they're charging over 100 quid. And I can tell you right now, we charge over £100, well over £100 for a wasp nest now. We ain't ripping anybody off. They don't have to have it done. And there are people that will do them for £40, and that's just life.
We charge the higher end of the scale on that. We have put it up slightly this year, because the whole industry is talking about driving the prices up on wasp nests, because there's going to be more callbacks, they're going to be more complex, and I found some of the nests this year super aggressive as well anyway, and you put a bit of Vulcan on them, it doesn't help their mood at all. But one of our competitors in the area, one of the larger guys, they've just done this blanket advert, fixed price for wasp nests at cheaper than I think they've ever done it before, and you just think that's the race to the bottom. Then that's we're going to hold firm on that, but there will be some firms out there thinking, shit, we're going to have to drop our prices a little bit, otherwise we're going to start losing business. But yeah, so
should we we'll call Vulcan the Stella Artois of the wasp world, shall we? Make some of it. Want some?
Yeah.
Want some?
It was like I was in a log today, trying to dig under a log, where I was trying to freeze this nest out, and yeah, it was pretty hairy. They were proper aggy, and of course, when you're on all fours, really hot, the sun's beating down, I'm sweating
your eyes.
It was horrible. And then, of course, I did a wasp nest a little bit later on, and I forgot what it's like to put a wet bee suit on, because you've been sweating in it so much from the last job. It was pretty gross. But I have noticed a lot more aggressive this year than I've never, and a lot of ground nests.
So you started on your own, and then how did it progress from there? Then it must have progressed up. I mean, did you say you've been going 9 years? Was it?
Yeah, 9 years now. Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
And there's how many of you now?
There's 5 technicians and 2 franchises,
okay.
Which is a relatively, well, I'll say 2. We've got one up in Oakham, Pest ID Oakham, Palomino, I've played sort of rugby with over the years. Went for a bit of a messy divorce, moved away. He'd been helping me out, and he just had a gift for the pest control and the outdoor life. Moved up there, started Pest ID Oakham, and yeah, James, he doesn't spend any money on advertising or anything. It's all word of mouth. All the local competitors give him business, and he just gets on so well with everybody. He's probably thriving out there.
That's good. That's cool.
So James, again, we used to play rugby together, and the guy who's starting our Kent franchise next month is another guy who played rugby on the same team with me, all back row rugby players. And he's starting the Kent franchise just over a month's time. And again, leaving a perfectly good job in the city. And I think he'll be excellent. He's just so enthusiastic about it. This side of 50, but still fit and strong. I think he'll do equally as well as James. So we've got those. We've got Terry, who you often see on the podcasts, always making a little comment. He's been pest control man and boy, such a wealth of knowledge. In fact, how I got to know Terry was I had a problem that I just couldn't solve, and I'd asked a few people, they weren't sure. And somebody said, well, contact this guy, Terry Ashley. He knows his mustard. You know, he's pretty good. So I phoned him one evening and we spoke for about half an hour trying to solve this problem. Again, super helpful one evening. And then we probably chatted for about an hour just generally about this and that. And just finishing the call, I said, Terry, will you come and work with me? He said, I've got a job. I said, oh, please. Just we work something out. Just please come and work with us, because I think we get on so well just on one phone call. I think it'd be brilliant if you could come over. And yeah, he did. Came over.
Was Terry the first person you took on, or were there
people? No, we took first guy, Dean Price. He's actually got his own firm, Pest Boss now. He's doing very well too. Again, not traditionally from a pest control background. It was a similar thing. He was in another industry, worked for a local competitor, came and worked for us, and just went off and did his own thing in the end. Then the next one was my son-in-law, Liam. He was in the police, Met Police, drugs and gangs in Barking and Dagenham, and he was getting a little bit frustrated because there's certain people that you just can't touch. You know, go to a bar, stab someone in front of everybody, and then just walk away from it. They're pretty much untouchable. And he was getting a bit peed off with that. Morale wasn't great. And so I just said to him one day, he said, well, you've always hunted and fished. You're a fit lad, you know, played rugby for Essex and, you know, big strapping lad. I said, why don't you come over and work with me? You can eventually take over. Pests we deal with, yeah, you can properly take them out. And that was in, I think when Liam came over, I didn't make a note of it, 2018. And we just not fallen out, not really disagree. He thinks I buy too many cherry pickers, but apart from that, we don't fall out about anything. He says we're too lazy to argue with each other. So Liam was the second proper person. I had a couple of ex-Rent-A-Kill guys for a little while, but you're kind of almost second guessing what they're up to when they should be doing jobs. So that kind of didn't work out.
How do you mean?
How do you mean?
Well, just not always where they should be when they should be, and
that's not a Rent-A-Kill thing. That's just a dodgy. That's just a dodgy technician thing. That is.
But I think so. Yeah, just trying to buck the system, and you just. I mean, and my whole attitude towards sort of working with people, I've had some real arsehole bosses in my time. I really have, and I don't want to be one myself. I just want everyone. You spend too much time at work not to enjoy it, so let's enjoy it. And everybody in the team, we just enjoy what we do, and it makes such a difference to the outcome of the job. We don't, obviously we're in business to make money, but that's not necessarily why we're doing it. We're doing it we just want success. We want to enjoy what we do, and that just seems to be working for us.
That's an interesting thing, because it's the older I get, we can see here that's accelerating at a rate of knots. The older I get to realise that there is a significant difference between cost and value in things in life. And there's the cost of running a business, and the cost of running home, and there is the costs, which are all financial, and then the value of doing something. And we can do there's 100 ways of making money. You can go stack shelves, you can sell yourself to the corporate machine, you can do all of these various things, and it's the money at the end of the day. The value comes in is when you finish at 5:30 or 8 o'clock. Do you feel like you have done something that is worthwhile? Can you go home and would you feel proud telling your friends and family and loved ones what it was you did for a day and the good that you did and the rest of it? And I think that the value in that far exceeds necessarily the money that you make from the job. Because let's be fair, nobody got into pest control thinking that they were going to buy Lamborghinis, unless of course it's lime green and the rest of it. So, but with that,
And your name's Mark Porter.
Yes, I do. So there we go. And I think a lot of our pest control community is just the same. We do it for not the enjoyment of the visceral sort of like removing of animals, but to help society. As you said, that first job you went to, it was helping that person. You spent there longer, you spoke to them, you engaged with them, you solved their problem, and the reward was
the
not necessarily
gratification is immense, isn't it? Once you solve that problem, the customer, oh, thank you, they'll call you a hero, call you whatever, and it does feel rather good.
Yeah, exactly that. And I think maybe when we sell pest control to people, we don't sell it on you get to be outdoors and the rest of it. Maybe we should sell it on the fact that the first time you finish a job and that little old lady who has been literally crying into her hands because she can't get rid of bed bugs is suddenly over the moon because she can sleep well for the first time in months. Maybe that's how
it's that pain point, isn't it? You sell it on a pain point, and then when you've solved that pain, customers are relieved that they're not in that pain any longer, and that can be a big thing for them. They haven't got, they can come home to a safe house that's not a rat running around in the loft, pattering around late at night. They're not going to go downstairs and see a rat running across the bottom of their foot. Or they're not going to wake up with a bed bug crawling across their face, and that is sometimes worth more than money for them.
One of the quickest and best rewarding things is solar panel proofing. We do an awful lot of those, and when people phone up, I've genuinely had people in tears through sleep deprivation, because at this time of the year the birds might be waking up 2-3 hours before daylight, and if you're a light sleeper and your bedroom's just below the panels and sound reverberates, that can send people a little bit crazy. And so you do the pigeon proofing, and I always phone next morning, same question: how was your first night without the pigeons? And you know what the answer is, but oh, brilliant. And I even had a little old lady from Wickford in Essex, and her husband was partially deaf, so he didn't hear it anyway. So he didn't want to pay for it. Husband passed away. And when he passed away, she explained, she said, look, one of the first things I need to do is sort out these pigeons. They're absolutely driving me crazy. I'm waking up at all hours of the night. I'm lying there waiting for the problem to start. So anyway, pigeon proofed it. Phoned up the next morning, about 8 in the morning, on a landline, no answer. Tried a mobile, still no answer. And she phoned up, look, I've just had a missed call from this number. I said, oh, it's Ian from Pest Control. I said, how's the pigeon? She says, yeah, I've oh my God, what's the time? I've overslept. Oh, I haven't overslept for years. This is wonderful. This is brilliant. And yeah, just that lovely feeling. But it's that instant gratification from our point of view that we do the job, it's done. 10-year guarantee, they won't have a problem with pigeons going under again. So yeah, it's good.
So what was the actual decision that you made why did you make the decision to take somebody else on?
We just started getting busier and busier. And I also, when Liam was on, Dean left just as Liam was starting, and we sat down together and we thought, well, we're doing all right. We've got quite a few contracts. We're getting quite a few bits of job work. But what about if we want to have a holiday? If we want to take so you got that choice then. Do you stay a small 1 or 2 man band and constantly be working all the time, or do you try and take on a bigger team so you can take a holiday, you can grow and expand the area a little bit? And and so we cover all of Essex and East London, and it actually really works well. We've got a guy that lives in East London, a couple of guys that live in Essex, and and then we get to a certain phase and we go, right, actually we could take somebody else, and I feel quite happy as we are at the moment.
Do you find though, do you think though that by the time you've realised that you need somebody else, you should have taken somebody on 6 months ago?
We just work harder, didn't you? Until, and that's the other great thing about the team as well. You could ask them to do pretty much anything. Say, I've got a real problem with a job. Can you? And you might have sort of 4 or 5 techs all work all the way through the night if there's a particular problem. So when we do take on maybe a little bit more than we could do, and you say, look, can we all sort of dig deep? And that's the other thing. We're all kind of got that sports mentality. Sort of 4 of us are rugby players. Young Bobby, he's a European inline speed skating champion, and I think Terry was. I think he fought for his country in judo back in the day. So we've all got that bit of grit behind us that we can push each other hard when we need to. And but it is that when you take them on, and once you do take them on, you've got to make sure you've got that work to keep them covered. And it's a relatively simple formula with Google. You just say, right, I need X amount more business. I will put that much more into Google.
And do you find though, as also that because you've got you've taken some, when you do take somebody else on, it naturally progresses because you're not turning stuff away, and you can say, yeah, we can fit that in now. Yeah, we can go there. We can do that. So even, you may not have had enough for that person when you took them on, but then suddenly it becomes like, shit, we can fill their time all the time because we're just taking more and more stuff in.
Yeah, we can the SEO company that we use. My background was kind of marketing. Most of my clients were ad agencies in my old life. So I've got quite a good understanding of how it all works. I started off, I did all my own SEO and pay-per-click. But again, it's not, ultimately I'm better at doing pest control. So I sort of used somebody that I trusted. Funny enough, Sean uses him now as well for Kill Line. Really good guy that we actually trust, because that's the other thing about anything sort of SEO. You get the adverts or the emails every day. Oh, we can boost your Google
ratings. Like black magic, isn't it?
Yeah, most of it's bullshit. The whole ad industry is bullshit. Who do you trust? And we found a guy that's really, really good, and clearly doing pest control for us and for Sean. He's getting to really understand the. I mean, he was actually working for an ad agency, but he started using me. I managed to get him to use a few pals of mine in their businesses. And then he went, oh, actually, I can now go it on my own. So he's actually gone on his own, started up his own agency.
It is quite. Go on, Alex.
I was about to say, pest control is a weird one to advertise for, I've found, because overwhelmingly in the domestic market, it's a crisis industry. And so targeting advertising in the traditional sense, like putting a sponsored advert out and the rest of it, doesn't necessarily work, because people may see it. Oh, yeah, that's interesting. There's a pest controller 5 minutes away from me. But if they don't have a problem with mice or rats or wasps then and there, then it's, you're going to get a lot of sort of like failed connections, so to speak. So it is a bit of a funny one, because you need to not just sort of like target the right people, but you also need to target the right people when they are having a problem, and that becomes a very narrow window within which to operate in. So yeah,
it's the Google search terms. If you get the right search terms in there, so, and as you say, it is a panic buy. So if they normally quite concerned or worried about whatever it is that pest problem they've got, As long as we get the initial inquiry, Joe in the office, we call my work wife, she's fantastic at just calming people down. And it's the psychology of it all. It's like, don't worry, we can sort this out. And she's even done a number of courses on pest control herself, just so she understands how we work as well. And she's just so good at putting people's mind at ease. And on the phone, then we get the guys out who are just such lovely, lovely technicians, people that kill things for a living. But they're just so nice, and then they sort of get in front of the customer and just sort the problem out. And
that's the thing with somebody in the office, though, isn't it? Or having somebody in the office is that they can perhaps show the concern to the client, whereas if you're dangling off of a ladder trying to do a wasp nest, it's like, you want a wasp nest done, yeah, or another way, yeah. Whereas somebody in the office can take the time to say, yeah, okay, can you tell me your story? Tell me what's going on, what worries you, and give that humanization face to it, rather than just, what's your number, love? I'll be round in 10 minutes. So that's
and Joe's a mum. She's got 3 kids, does the school run and stuff like that. So she understands, and she's petrified of rats, absolutely terrified of them. So she understands, people's fears and worries, and she's just good at just got a lovely way about her.
I've been saying for a while that actually a lot of small micro businesses are looking to expand, don't necessarily need a second technician. They need a more streamlined operation. Actually, what a lot of people could genuinely benefit from is that person in the office who can take the time out of the day, take the slack out of the day in getting you from A to B in a more effective way, covering the invoices, getting things more streamlined, being that voice on the end of the phone. That's not sort of like, can I call you back in 5 minutes? I'm up a ladder and covered in bees. It's that ability to sort of like, as you say, emotionally connect with the client and listen to them rather than schedule them in for the earliest opportunity. So yeah, I think that's a big thing.
It could be a bit sketchy if she's on the school run, and everything has to fit in. But by allowing us to be so flexible with what you're doing, you just look at the experience you get. She was a PA to top brass up in the city, and we've got her for our little pest control company. So how lucky are we that we've got all her organisational skills and her compassion that she can show. So worth a weight in gold.
The other thing is, now it seems like people aren't leaving messages just the same on answer phones as they were. If they've used you before, they will leave a message on your answer phone because they want to use you again. But new customers, they see more now, like if you don't pick that phone up, they'll just move on to the next person. They just want that instant. I want it sorted. I want it now. I don't care who you are. It's affecting my life. I want it sorted now.
It goes back to this Uberification principle, doesn't it? Which is, if you can hear the squeaking, my dog's brought me a little toy to play with.
Is it a rat?
Yeah, it's a little squeaky rat. But it's this Uberification principle, which is people don't necessarily these days want to talk on the phone. They don't want to phone people up. They want to be able to use this magical device that you hold in your hand and does everything there. And for anyone who hasn't heard this, the Uberification principle is, if you were to sort of like get a train to another city further away than what you were expecting, and you step off that train and you need to get to the hotel, and you don't know what the buses are and you don't know what the infrastructure is like, so you're going to have to get a taxi. Do you phone up Yellow Pages? Do you go to the check desk? Do you go and stand out front and look for a taxi? No, you download Uber. You use Uber because you have an app, you know how much you're going to pay, you know how long it's going to take, you know when that Uber driver is going to get there. You don't have to phone anyone up, you just have to pick the fare that's most appealing to you, press a button, it's all done, there's no hidden charges, happy days. And people are, I think they did a study, so Gen Y and Z, which are, millennials and afterwards, do not like speaking to people on phones. If they can get around it, they will use any other method of communication rather than phoning someone up, because it's stressful.
That's where it's a shame, because you want your personality to come across. You want to people buy people do business with people they like to do business with. If it's all electronic, and how do you yeah, I personally, I'm an IT guy, but I don't like that. I want our guys, Joe or people, to talk to people and build those relationships, and
Mhm.
you can't really get that with online apps.
If you can talk to people, you know, like you say, if you answer the phone and you have got the time, I wouldn't say you can talk people around, but you can certainly give them confidence in who they're buying from, rather than, you know, once you start talking to people, and you might not be the cheapest in the area, but I've had many people say to me, oh, well, we phoned the last lot and actually you're a little bit more expensive than they are, but you actually sound like you know what you're doing,
Exactly.
you know.
We
So
will never give a price over, just give a price. People give an inquiry, how much for this? No, we need to speak to them. We need to ask them questions. We need to qualify them. We need to, what other problems do you have? We want to have a relationship with these people. We'd never ever give any price over the telephone. Sorry, just over a message. We'd always
do,
speak to them.
do you remember the Kirby salesman's ploy?
Oh
Do you
yeah,
remember
once they get in your house.
Oh, fuck me. You could never get the price out of them right until they finished the whole pitch. And it was like 45 minutes, and they go and hoover your bed and show you. And you'd be just like, can you tell me how much it is, please? No, we've got to finish the pitch. We've got to finish the pitch. And then you come the end and you were like, how much?
It's a little extreme, but again, if someone's that fixated on price, let somebody else deal with them.
Yeah.
I don't want that business. Like when you get the tender documents through, and you got all pages and pages of things they expect you to do before you even get a chance to quote on it or meet them or anything like that. I've got to the stage now, I think somebody else can have that. It's just not worth it. I've got 3 really good big clients that, yes, we've done all the paperwork, the health and safety, all the RAMs, all the paperwork that's in place, but it's about the relationships we have with them that keeps it all together. I don't want these constant, you've got to do this, you've got to do that.
We have a little, you've got a little bit of story about a big client and the podcast, haven't you?
Yes.
And a bit of a success story for us, which makes it all worthwhile.
And it has been. I mean, again, going back to what's helped me, these podcasts have been invaluable to me. Little snippets of information, different industries. There's one in particular that it was super helpful for. We started pitching for the Port of Tilbury, so it's the entire port, so 1,000 acres, Tilbury 1, Tilbury 2, many months ago. And we'd gone through a few meetings and we were doing the final pitches. And it just so happened you had Layla, the falconry lady, on, and she was
Layla Bennett, yeah.
And when we were around there, I got a photo of it. One of the roofs there must have been 2,000 pigeons on there, feral pigeons, because it's a grain terminal. Feral pigeons, they just like grain, you know, it's spilt. But the company that had it before, they've been flying falcons for 28 years there. And Layla actually said at a point on her podcast, flying hawks on a site that is just will not work unless you're there the whole time living there. All you're going to do is push the problem around, and that was quite pivotal to our presentation, which we sort of put a slide in. Listen to Beauties and Beasties podcast so far in, and so we need to bring the numbers down, and that's what we're doing at the moment. We're just culling as many as we can to get the numbers down to a manageable level again.
Was that a like yes moment when you got it, or
it's like yes, oh my god, we've got it now. Wow, that is. But it's so exciting because we've I mean, Liam and Steve are basically managing the site, but they're so, the enthusiasm they've got for it it's brilliant.
Can I just backtrack a second? Just when you were speaking to sort of like so when you were talking to your client, did I just hear you correctly? Did you tell them to go and watch the podcast?
Yeah.
Is that what?
Yeah.
No. Sorry. We're going to have to sort of like. I know
Not
you've got.
We just so many minutes into it, and
So you actually got them. You were like, "Oh, go and have a watch at 45 minutes and 9 seconds, and
Pretty
this is what
much,
we're
yeah.
going to do." And they watched it like with
Mm.
you, or did they send you an email
No, it's
afterwards saying,
fast.
being like,
You get these, get a commission, yeah. You get these software packages that you can do a presentation and you sort of send it over. And you can actually see what pages they go on and how long they stay on and things like
Okay.
that. So I do know they spend
Okay.
a fair time on that particular page. So, but we just got on so well with them. We again, it's just that enthusiasm. When we went onto the pitch, we took Terry along. Liam was there. We took Joe from the office, who'll be doing the everyday sort of contact with them, and it just works. And we've started in June, and we're seeing a massive change already. And Alex, black rats.
"Oh,
Black
okay,
rats.
I'm going to go and see a load of
And they're
black rats."
so bloody
soon.
cute.
Can I just say, I mean, the thing is about that, when you go yes like that, I was always taught, you know, at Rentokil, you should never walk away from the contract and go yes, because it looks a bit.
I didn't
You know,
actually do it there and
but
then.
no, I know, but what I was going to say is that you know, some of the bigger customers, maybe like Tilby Docks, or even some of the bigger customers for us, don't realize how much that contract actually means to people. You know, when you've put that effort in and you're sat in the office and you think, fuck yeah, you know, and they don't realize how important that is, not just for the company, but the people that work with you as well, because that's helped safeguard their future, you know, and it is it's a big moment, isn't it? A big contract. It really is.
And other opportunities. It's again, it's the enthusiasm everybody's got for it as well. And already they almost feel like they're part of the team down at Tilbury, because they're a lovely crowd down there too. There's a few that kind of want the Hawks back, and they want, you know, little bit resistance change, but we're already starting to bring the numbers down. The software that we're using is ticking all the boxes. We're studying the black rats, which I'd love to speak to Alex more about, because
what software was that?
We use we looked at Sean's software. That's absolutely fantastic. We really like that, but we ended up partnering purely for the size of the contracts that we've got, a German package called Debugs. So it's kind of the equivalent of the BPCA in Germany. They actually wrote a piece of software for the pest control industry. So a bit like Sean, he's written a piece of software specifically for the pest control industry, because we've used, oh my God, we've used so many bits of software, and they all tell you they do this, they do that. They don't tell you all the bad sides of it, or how controlling they are, or how, but this piece of software is mint. We say, oh, can we change that? And they say, yeah, we'll do that. And they do it. And it might take a couple of weeks, but the software we were using before, you know, it was always on the list and it never actually got covered. And we lost a very big contract off the back of that, purely for software. And I've got the email there from the client saying, because your software couldn't do that, unfortunately, we've had to go with somewhere else. We might actually be getting it back again, but that was, you know, it was a real sticking point, and it helped us get out of the contract as well, because, well, we said, well, otherwise we'll tell everybody that your software can't do this, and yeah, so we managed to
So
get
come
out.
on then, black rats.
Yeah, it's just super cute, and they're just kind of, you're looking everywhere for them, but we're doing a lot of monitoring at the moment. We've got cameras set up and just trying to study their behavior. But
right, so this is some question I've got to ask you, because black rats have become a lot more of my life recently. Now I've taken on a bit more of a global role. Oh, someone bought you a...
Yes,
Hey.
thank you.
So yeah, black rats have become a lot more of my life recently. You know, taken a global role. I've actually done, and there are lots of other rat species around the world that we encounter, not just the sort of like the brown rat and the black rat. But one of the things that we're finding is that because it's this thing. So depending on who you speak to, people say that black rats are challenging because they do react to the chemicals that we use slightly differently. They actually are a bit more resistant to things like brodiflucum and flucumofen and some of the more potent escars, which is quite interesting to see straight away. But the other thing is because they have a slightly different diet, they tend to be more frugivorous than granivorous, like the omnivorous, like our brown rats. They tend to be a bit more reluctant to move on to our cereal-based foods. Also, we hear a lot that they prefer to eat and graze and forage at height, and so traditional placements of bait around on the floor, which is what we are used to doing for brown rats and house mice, aren't nearly so effective. So what have been your experiences so far with controlling black rats, considering all of these different elements? Or have you managed to just do as you do and they've conformed to your program?
Again, it was only beginning of June that we took the contracts over, so we're kind of continuing with what was in place before, basically snap traps at certain points, but we're observing them now, so we're putting cameras in and just trying to understand their behavior a little bit better. And from what we learned from that, we'll try other things. Vacuum foam is pretty useful for certain points that they go to, because it is trying to find a bait that they'll eat, a food source. They seem incredibly picky.
Going back in time, like
Yeah,
I normally do, used to use alpha chlorulose, Alex, for black rats, or alpha chlorulose concentrate on fruit.
Oh, yeah. I'm about to say concentrate, absolutely, because alpha chlorulose concentrate, you could mix it and you could drop foxes down with it, which was a bit of a contentious thing and not a label use. But yeah, the concentrate was, concentrate
16.6, wasn't it?
Something like that, yes. So alpha chlorulose is basically it's an isomer of chlorulose, which is not a barbiturate, but it is a anesthetizing agent. In fact, it might be a barbiturate. So it's an anesthetizing agent. So what that does is it will what we do now.
Freeze. They freeze.
Freeze. Yes, it basically is a nervous system depressant, and it will stop that animal by putting it into an anesthetic state. But it's a terminal anesthesia if it goes too far, because the animal's heart rate and respiration will drop below a critical level, and it will cause vasodilation, which means that it'll also bleed a lot of heat into the environment. And when you're a small a small animal whose surface area is greater than its volume, you can't afford to bleed a lot of air, heat out into the environment. So the smaller the body of the animal, the more effective it's going to be, or more likely it's going to be affected by things like alpha chlorulose. So black rats, being smaller than brown rats ostensibly, would probably be more affected by it. And certainly if you do see black rats eating alpha chlorulose, it doesn't necessarily kill them, but they do act like they have been on a 3-day bender. You will see them sort of like listing about and weaving as this this chlorulose takes an effect there. So yeah, it's interesting stuff. I would love to catch up with you offline, because I've got I really want to do a case study. I really want to do a field trial on black rats to see actually whether or not we see control failures, not as a result of formulation choice, but as a result of placement choice. Because we have, all of you look at your level 2 training, you look at all of your advanced training, you look at all of the conventional wisdom, all of the bits that we share. And, where do you put your bait boxes? Where do you put your bait boxes? You put them on the ground, you put them in these areas. These are the things you're looking for. And very rarely do we look at height, certainly not more than 2 meters off the ground. But of course, with roof rats, tree rats, ship rats, that is their wheelhouse. That's where they're living. And if they can find food in those areas as well, then why would they come down to the ground? Because that's where the predators live. That's where the human beings are. So it would be really interesting if you have the time or have the inclination. I'd love to be able to sort of like...
the customer would be really interested as well. So yeah, definitely.
Wasn't it Neve Quinn that was dealing with black rats a lot, roof rats?
Yes, they do. And so Neem Quim, there's also a couple of others as well. So they have issues in the west coast of America with brown rats, but they actually sort of like border on the urban, the rural urban people's. I was being told the other day, people's like orange orchards and stuff like that being hit heavily with black rats. So yeah, it's just really us in the UK where black rats are an exciting thing. The rest of the world are a bit like, a bit over these now, guys. Let's just get on with getting rid of them. But it's fun. It's the challenge of it, isn't it? It comes back to that sort of like that visceral challenge, and then that sort of like
thinking of how there's not a massive problem there. It really isn't that big an issue, but yeah, and it's also the problem we have as well. Some of the areas that we have to work in, we have limited hours to work in, because once the machinery goes on, you have to get out of the plant. So yeah, it's whilst trying to do the routine work, but also so we'll try and go around at least in twos, maybe three. So one's actually doing the routine work, and one's properly looking around, and like how will we do that? Or there's some tail swishes there, and
we're talking about software and technology, and one of my colleagues / good friends who works out in Singapore, they have a camera that they have been pioneering, and
I've seen that.
You've seen it, have you? Yeah, it's brilliant. So the camera basically is an AI camera, so it will not only just sort of like take a picture of the room and send you the videos back. It'll sort of like put a little box marker on the rat, and it will be able to follow it as it moves around, and it will sort of like paint the trail as they move, and it will basically show you where they've been moving, what they're doing, and map it, the most frequently used routes and the rest of it. It's a really cunning bit of technology, which
it tracks it back where the possible entrance points are and all sorts, doesn't it? That's
yeah.
Oh.
So maybe we get some of those.
There's always new. That's the other thing I love about this industry. There's still lots of new, innovative ways of doing things that come. All right, it's tried and tested ways of doing things, but there's other things that you can.
Is that a resident population then, or is that just cyclical as they come in on ships and things like that?
It's just a resident population. I think it's
okay.
big building, and yeah.
Wow.
Apparently been there for a long time. But again, it's not a massive problem, but it's a problem that has to be kept on top of. And if we could eradicate them, I think Alex would be a little bit upset about it. But liberal black rats. But yeah, it's just exciting. It's something new, something different.
They sit and look at you like they're Mickey Mouse, don't they, with those big ears?
They just look cute. Even the dead ones, they're like, oh.
Like
Liam found one first. Well, Liam found one first, and he said, "Oh, they're super cute." And he brought one back to me in the office. He says, "Do
you know what you can? You know what you're going to have to do though. You're going to have to find a really fresh one, and you're going to have to send it off to the taxidermist. Like I've got the brown rat on my desk in the office. I reckon a black rat would be
right.
What's wrong?
Oh no, mate! The one that I've got that was at the exhibition is absolutely fantastic. It looks at me and it just looks brilliant. She did it so well. It was awesome. It's put it on a little pile of rubbish, and it's just coming down over a cardboard box, and it is absolutely cracking.
Is it snarling or anything like that? Is it?
No, it's just looking down, and when it looks down, it just looks at you. And she's got the glass eyes. Obviously, it's absolutely perfect.
So one of my favorite books, that I was given years and years ago, is this one.
Oh,
can you read it? Is it Crap Taxidermy? It's basically just a collection of the world's worst taxidermy.
There's a Facebook page.
Oh, that is a Facebook page. But you just see there. I mean, that's and these are national exhibits. This isn't sort of like people in personal collections. This has been taken from sort of like taxidermy collections from around the world. And actually, one of my favourite places to visit until quite well, it still is. I just haven't been there for a while. Is the Tring Museum in High Wycombe, or near High Wycombe. It's in Tring, and it was Walter Rothschild's country home. So if you ever heard of Walter Rothschild, I'm not going to derail this horribly, but I need to tell this story because it is pest related. So if we heard of Walter Rothschild, have you heard of the Rothschilds at the very least?
I've heard of the Rothschilds, yeah.
Yeah, Walter Rothschild was one of the younger of the Rothschilds. Didn't have to do jack with his life, parents' money. Don't have to be an achiever. Just have to survive. And he was absolutely. When you say people are crazy, and then when you say people who have a lot of money aren't crazy, they are simply eccentric. Walter Rothschild was that. So he loved taxidermy. So he would go around the world looking for things. He has, well, he's long dead now, but the Tring Museum has the largest collection of stuffed hummingbirds in the world, of taxidermed hummingbirds in the world. So much so that there are species of hummingbirds in his collection that have never yet been rediscovered in the wild. And it is thought that he both discovered them and sent them extinct in the same event. That's the kind of stuff. But it's this whole museum of this. He brought animals over. So all of the giraffes that we find in the zoos in the UK, he imported a lot of giraffes. And there's actually about 3 or more subspecies of giraffe out in Africa. But he had no idea of that. So he just found a giraffe, brought it home, and sort of like stuck them all in the zoos together, and they interbred, and which is why all of the giraffes, or most of the giraffes you find in the UK in zoos, are called Rothschild's giraffes, because they're just hybrids of just the smorgasbord he brought back. But how this relates to pests is he is responsible for edible dormice in the UK. We say it was the Romans, and the Romans did it years and years and years ago, and then they largely died out. And then he reintroduced them because he thought it would just be really cool. I want edible dormice. And so in his country estate, bred them by the tens, by the hundreds, and then would open the doors and let them out and let them just free, and then close the doors again and breed them up and open them up. And that's why if you have a look at the map of all of the glisclis, they all focus around that High Wycombe, Oxford, Reading kind of area, because that's where he lived. That's what he did. He was crazy, and he was responsible for he sent animals extinct. He brought pests to the UK. He even trained zebras to pull his to pull his carriage through London, and he went through dozens of zebras, because zebras are not a domesticated animal. They don't pull bloody carts. He took kiwi birds to university with him. He was mental. Anyway, promised I wouldn't derail it that much, but if you ever want to go see some amazing
electricity and vast amount of money, one of my best pals, he was John Paul Getty II's bodyguard, and he had a massive estate in Wormsley in Oxfordshire. And in the 80s, he spent millions reintroducing the red kite. And you notice them all around Oxfordshire. You say, oh yeah, that's a red kite. But they've now spread so far. We've got them out in Essex. We've got a breeding pair just not far from our offices, and all just from the one guy.
Dozens of them. Yep.
Yeah. It's all down to John Paul Getty II.
I once treated some fur beetle on a saber-toothed tiger once, a stuffed saber-toothed tiger in a museum, in Painting Museum.
I don't think that was a real saber-toothed tiger.
It looked pretty good. It was stuffed.
Better than in that book.
I say that I don't think there's any remains of those left. I'd hope not.
It might have been a Patagonian tiger or something. Deep in my memory, I fooled myself. It was a saber-toothed tiger.
Well, talking of extinct animals that you shouldn't have in taxidermy collections, the Tring Museum has the only dodo remains there. And again, this is pest related as well, because the original dodo that they had and stuffed got so moth-eaten that the curator at the time was just like, well, this thing's absolutely effed, and went to go and chuck it on the fire. Yeet, last dodo in the world onto the bonfire. And his protege, his assistant, was like, realized that this was a terrible thing. Leapt into the fire after this thing. But at this point, you had a dodo that had half been eaten by clothes moths and fur beetle, and half been singed by a bonfire. And he dragged it out, and he very lovingly restored it. But the only feathers he could find that were even a close match in color and shape and hue were pigeon feathers. So with that, the last dodo on Earth is actually more than 2/3 pigeon rather than dodo.
Talking about moth, Talking about clothes moth, have you? Has anybody had any success with parasitic wasps that's listening? Because we've just quoted for 2 jobs using parasitic wasps. Have you had
James, who does
anything in?
Emma Oakham, he looks after a load of stately homes, and I think he dabbled with that. Yes.
Yeah,
Maybe that's
we've
a
got
chat with him.
we've got this one place, and it's in the roof. They filled it full of wool as an eco-friendly insulation, and underneath is a manufacturer, and they're getting lots of clothes moth, and so
Floating down.
so we've been looking at that and releasing them in their thousands.
A good person to look at for that and to speak to is a gentleman called Ada. I can put his details up later. But he did a load of talks actually a couple of years back. You might remember him for the MPTA on the road days. In fact, you definitely have heard of him because you and I listened to him. I remember standing next to you.
Oh,
So Ada, and it's Ada Goldsmith or Ada Gold something. But his whole wheelhouse is around the systematic control of clothes moths. You know, the family that is clothes moths. So if anyone's interested,
a guest.
I guessed, but also if anyone is having problems
Yeah.
with clothes moths, he's definitely the gentleman to talk to because I've to this day never found anyone more knowledgeable than him on these things. But there we go. Can you believe it's been an hour and 10 minutes already? Like we are absolutely sort of like flying through tonight. Ian, I want to give you the opportunity because I know that you were sort of like looking forward to coming on and sort of like a little bit apprehensive. So I want to sort of like turn the tables a little bit here. I want to give you an opportunity to interview us for just 10 minutes as we come up to the end. So to ask us some questions to get your own back, so to speak. You've obviously been listening to the podcast for a while, so go on, ask us some questions that you would like to have the answers to as a long time listener.
Oh, wow. Put on the spot. Thanks for that, lads. My mind's just gone totally blank. Well, tell me more about black rats, please, Alex. What did you used to breed them at the church farm?
Oh, yes. So Church Farm, for those who may not have heard of this, so one of to take the story back to the beginning, Church Farm was an amazing place, and anyone that went there never forgot it. You either went independently or through one of the distributors, or a lot of folks went and saw it through Rent-A-Kill. And what Church Farm was, it was an old chicken farm that had been slave partitioned off. And there's a gentleman called Dr. Havers who worked across the road, whose father-in-law actually owned the site. And as the poultry industry diminished in the UK, he annexed a little bit more of the farm, and he started running ecology classes out of there, and he started to bring the rats in. He went down to the British Wildlife Centre, which was just down the road, and got some of their captive brown rats and brought them in, and then found some rats from Tilbury Docks and brought them in, and then sort of like kept on going. And he built these great big enclosures for them, and they were 30 feet wide by 60 feet long, and they were just, we wouldn't necessarily call them wild rats, and they certainly weren't pet rats. They were probably what you'd call feral rats, but they were allowed to do exactly whatever they wanted to do within the confines of these arenas. So they exhibited all of the natural behaviors you'd see, the dominance hierarchies, the mating sort of like rituals that you see between these animals, the shadow boxing, all of this stuff. But we were very lucky to have down there this population of black rats, because you don't, outside of a zoo, you didn't really see these things unless you were going down to Tilbury Docks. And it was fascinating to watch them and see their behavior change. And I probably, not talking about the black rats, but one of my fondest memories of the black rats is my office when I moved my labs down there, when we integrated my labs with Steve's operation. When I moved down there, my office was immediately next to the black rat pen. And so I ended up sort of like, every time I was on the phone, taking a phone call, I pace, and my office was not big enough to sort of like have a pacing walk around. So I'd pace around the outside of the black rat pen. And I'd usually do so when on the phone and then eating an apple, and I'd throw the core in. And over time, these rats became accustomed to the sound of my voice, was usually followed by, airborne food coming and landing in their pens. So at the end of the day, I could sit there, and actually, when I was giving the presentations and the talks, I could talk with my lovely dulcet tones, and the rats would all sort of like creep out like the Pied Piper and come and see what was going on, because they were waiting for an apple talk to drop out. But they were fantastic animals, and they have really long tails, which they will use not in a prehensile way, but you can see them. They'll wrap them and sort of like rest them on the things that they're climbing over as a sort of like almost escape bungee cord. So if they were to slip off it, they would do it, and they would lean over things, and you could almost hear them sort of like vocalize and speaking, but they'd lean all of their ears forwards and they'd lean all of their body forwards, and it was very clear that they were sort of like gauging distance before they actually leapt off something. And touch wood, we never actually lost one. Just taking a leap into the environment. Pardon?
They're good jumpers as well. How far would they be able to leap?
Absolutely. So we worked under the assumption that they'd be able to sort of like cover a 1.5 to 2 meters in jump, and we saw them do about that on occasion. So we'd put sort of like a little fake stack of crates and boxes and other paraphernalia that you'd find in a warehouse in the middle of their enclosure, and one day we did build it up a bit too high, and they did start to.
So Ian, I'll ask you another question if you don't mind. What's the future? What's the future for Pest ID?
Again, originally my plan was to sort of build it up to a certain size and sort of sell it to whoever. But now that Liam's involved, we just want to enjoy what we're doing. We've got some cracking customers. We love our customers. We just want to keep it as it is, really. We don't really need to expand that much more. Liam's slowly taking over the running of the business. Again, he looks after our main accounts and does the sort of running. I just sort of tinker doing my bird proofing and my IT stuff, and just tinkering around with things and the stuff I enjoy, and let Liam do it. And obviously we've got the franchises as well, and sort of seeing how they perform.
Would that be something that you'd like to go more into, the franchising?
I think if I was younger, definitely. When I looked at the franchises, there's a lot of money up front, and quite a large percentage of your turnover that you're paying, and then you've got all the restrictions on areas and what you can do and how you do it. At one stage I thought, wouldn't it be great to have like a really low startup fee and a lower percentage? You could almost overnight take all the best technicians in the country, and I had this little plan. This was not long after I'd started, but yeah, you kind of get just content with how things are. So you get a little bit older, and so whether Liam wants to do something like that later on down the line, I don't know, but ultimately, yeah, he's running the business and got the main how we do things. I'm trying to use a little bit of foresight for where we'd like to be in the future. But
that's cool.
It's interesting you say that, because you look at the statistics of our industry, and overwhelmingly it's an industry comprised of micro businesses. It's an industry comprised of, and when we say micro businesses, we're talking less than 5 people, including office staff. So either sole traders or small outfits, but less than 5 people. And it's something like 60 to 80%, depending on where you look for that sort of information. But also overwhelmingly, it is people who have come into this business later in life. It's people who've come in later. It's people who have come in usually as a second or third career, but sort of like, I wouldn't say a twilight career, but it ends up being that because it's the last job. People fall into it and never ever leave. But people probably have a very different set of priorities when it comes to that point. I've worked all of my life, I want to do something I enjoy. I've worked all my life, I don't want to grow a big company, I want to sort of like do the things that I enjoy. So maybe the reason that our industry is structured the way it is isn't because of any kind of like weird blockers. It's simply just because people are doing this for reasons, other than that. It's quite an interesting sort of like dynamic.
Very different. I mean, I'm 57 now. I was just trying to think how old James and we've all entered it later in life. The one big success we have actually is, because I mean I'd love to have done it earlier, but I did. Who wants to be a pest controller when you're young? However, Bobby, who works for us, he's the speed skating guy. I knew his parents, and he was studying. He was doing his marketing and business administration at college, and he had a day release where he had to get some experience in a firm. So I said, well, I'll do it. I've kind of got a marketing background, and I've just started up a business. You can come and work with me. And it was quite nice to talk about my marketing experience and just how the business was growing. And then to earn a little bit of extra money, I said, oh, can you help us out with this? Or we're shooting pigeons in a warehouse. I'll be this side shooting them, you be that side of the catapult and coffee beans, and when they fly over that, you can fire a coffee bean to scare them back down there. So we kind of started off like that, and he'd come round checking bait boxes with us, and he really seemed to enjoy it. Anyway, so he finished all his courses, got a job with an ad agency, and absolutely hated it. And we're just having a little chat, and he says, I just love the pest control side of it. I said, do you want to do it? And he says, I'd love to do it. I really, really enjoyed that. So first thing we looked at was trying to get a vehicle for him. Insurance for a youngster. He was only 20 at the time. Costs a fucking fortune. But again, he was just such a lovely. Anyway, so we got him for his level 2, and it's changed his life around. It's not the dirty job that he thought it would be, and most people think. He loves talking about it to his pals and his mates, and the customers just absolutely love him. He's just so polite, so inquisitive, but he's not a guy that should have ever been in this industry. We got him by chance, but the fact that we got him by chance, he loves it. He absolutely loves the job. So we're very, very lucky to get him, and we shouldn't have got him, but we have. But as been discussed in previous episodes, how do you encourage these people into the industry? They've got a preconception of what it's like, but like me, an older guy is brilliant.
Just going to give something a plug a minute, which I hope I'm allowed to do. The MPTA have got the 5 for 25 for going, so there will be another 5 positions for people under 25 to put their names forward for to be funded to go through their level 2. So as a incentive for under 25-year-olds. So
I thought you were going to say 5 for 25. 5 people who get to join for 25 quid. I'll just join yesterday.
No, that's no good. No.
Oh, that'd be great for youngsters, yeah.
Yeah. So
can I do a separate plug as well for this? Not a BPTA plug.
If you're allowed.
The Wade Environmental, so the company I founded, which is now being run by Lulu in my absence. It's still going on, and we're still committed. So when I started that, because I worked for so many years with my old man, and I honestly believe that sort of like he was the one that brought me into the industry, and I learned almost everything I know from him, and still have so much more to learn. That Wade Environmental set up its legacy program. So every year that Wade Environmental has been running, we pay for either a son or a daughter or a father and a mother to do their RSPH level 2 award so they can operate as a family team. So if you are not under 25 but you are still looking for funding and you want to go and work in a family business with your family, be it whoever it is in that dynamic, we ask for names every December and we draw them out of a hat at the beginning of January, and then we will sort of like fund you through it. And a couple of people listening to this actually have been through and done that program, and then we've had it. So there we go. So if you're under 25, go and have a look at the 5 for under 25. If you're over 25 but you want to work in a family group, look at the Wade Environmental Legacy Program.
It doesn't sound very many, does it? Six people going forward into the industry, but for a small industry, to encourage, this is the second round of 5 for 25. So, that's starting the wheels rolling, isn't it? That's the thing about bringing people in.
Oh, yes. And it's no small sort of like I think what puts a lot of people off is, okay, you have your 1 day safe use of, or basic use of rodenticides, and that's okay, a couple of £100. But to actually get your level 2 award, that's anywhere between £800 and £1,600, depending on what supply you go with and what you're doing, and that's a lot of capital investment to invest into an unknown at the end of the day, someone who may or may not stay in this industry longer than a couple of years. But I think that's probably one of the things that puts people off as well, is investing that sort of small fortune. No one's going to want to pull £1,000 out of their back pocket on an if, but, or a maybe. Ian, you sound like you've hired a lot of people, over the last little while. What would you say, anyone who is looking to take that jump to take someone onto their team, what is it that you look for in the person to hire from that, from all of the people you've hired? What are the key characteristics that you would say to look out for?
It's just, do they get on? We've got such a close-knit team, they've got to fit in, and it's just keep searching till you get that person that clicks with not only you as a team, but who's going to click with the customers. Because, as I said before, people do business with people they like to do business with. They've when something they've got to be honest. They've got to have. And I'm a real firm believer in, when things screw up, and they do screw up. Sometimes it's the customer screws up, sometimes it's me, sometimes it's a team. But it's when something goes wrong, how do they react to it? Do they try and cover their ass? Do they try and blame other people? You're looking for those sort of qualities that actually go to the customer and say, yeah, we screwed up here. However, we can fix this. We can put this right. We can. I'm not a great lover of people that try and pass the buck and own up a problem, sort it out, and just be part of the team. Again, I've always been a team sportsman, and you're as strong as your weakest link, and you've got to know trusting. You've got to trust these people that you work with. You've got to get on with them and trust them. And when you're interviewing, if it doesn't feel right, move on, find somebody else. Don't take somebody just because you've won a new contract and you've got to cover that, or everyone else is struggling. You've got to find the right person. It's crucial. And you get the right team, everything's just so much easier. And that's all I'd say. And I'm not necessarily, I love the idea, some of our guys have not had industry experience. I haven't had industry experience. Sometimes I think some people can pick up some lazy habits in the industry. And I know for me and a couple of the other guys that have had other jobs outside the industry, and they've learned to hate their jobs. The amount of times I was stuck behind a desk in meetings, office politics, petty bureaucracy, and you kind of learn. And then you do a job like this when you're out and about and problem solving, and it's just magical compared to what I did before. So, and I think Dave's going to find that, who's doing our Kent, he's up in the city, financial controls and stuff like that. I think he's just going to find it so exhilarating to have that freedom to, unless you've not been in this industry and got into this industry, you'll never probably quite understand how lucky you are to be in that industry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's definitely one of those industries, you're either in it for 5 minutes or for life. Yeah, you don't seem to see any others in. Oh, right, we are coming. What?
I've got to shout because we're coming to the end. So it makes a change for me, not texting going, time.
Don't worry, I'm sure Sean will be texting us as well. No. Ian, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on. It's been really nice to actually sort of like, we have so many folks coming on, and it's really nice to be able to just sort of like talk to someone who's been there, done it, someone who listens to this, who can sort of like talk us through their experiences just in the real world. And I'm so over the moon to hear how the podcast actually managed to give something back to you as well. So it's been a really, really wonderful little conversation to be having. And so with that, I'll launch with the first question, which is, have you enjoyed your time on the
I
podcast.
really have actually. As I said to you before, I said to Sean, you know, I'm shitting myself. I don't really want to be doing this. And in the office, they say, "Oh, go and do it." And then we thought, well, just a positive story. You know, it's been a really positive journey to do it. So, but yeah, you're still nervous about it. You get that imposter syndrome. You know, I'm not an expert in this industry by any means. I'm learning all the time. So I was a little bit nervous about that. But yeah, it's just like chatting to the guys down the pub. It's really enjoyed it.
I mean, before we move on to the shameless plug, like
Cool.
just to touch on that imposter syndrome thing, because I would like to do that. I think we all at some point experience this element of imposter syndrome, especially as we are, a lot of us, working by ourselves, where we don't have anyone necessarily to turn around to and say, you know, tell me that I'm not going crazy. Tell me that I'm not sort of like just gaslighting myself here. Tell me that I'm sort of like actually doing better than I think I am. And I think imposter syndrome is probably something that hits us across the board here. And it's no bad thing, because to have it means that you have to be doing well in order to feel that you haven't deserved to do well. So with that, yeah, be aware of this. But by all means, you know, we're a small community, which is a very open community. So talk to people. Don't sort of like have this issue. And yeah, imposter syndrome is a big thing. We all get it. I definitely have experienced it daily. so there we go. So no, thank you.
But you do get it, because I mean, when I talk to like Terry, who's got so much experience, you learn so much from him, and you just think, I've just scratched the surface here. I you know, and I think that was one of my worries: is, do I really know what I'm talking about? Yeah, the business has done well, but you just worried that, you know.
A reason that it's done well, and that should be the vindication of your imposter syndrome. Tell that little inner saboteur to go dunk his head in a bucket of water. So there we go. Right, on to question number 2.
Give us a shameless plug.
To be honest, I haven't really got a shameless plug to. I don't.
Everybody that owns a business has got a shameless plug.
Well, I don't do work for other pest controllers or anything like. The only shameless plug I'd probably say, which doesn't necessarily, I'd say Sean's software, pest control software. I'm a firm believer in everybody up in their game. There's still companies out there that use the NCR forms. There are still companies out there that use maybe the form pieces of software. But to go that next level up and use something like Sean's system, which I've seen in a lot of detail, it's specifically written for this industry. Or if you're a larger firm, have a look at this debug system. Again, it's written for the industry. So it's not really a plug that benefits me, but hopefully it will benefit everybody else if they can try these things out and hopefully bring their businesses forward, make them a little bit more transparent, a bit more accountable.
Very
I think
magnanimous.
it's good for the industry.
Cool.
Yeah, and that's it. It's it's the work. What's it that Sean says? It's the job's done when the what's his expression, or is it your expression?
Money's in the paperwork.
Money's in the paperwork. There you go.
Or
absolutely,
the job's not done until the paperwork's done.
There we go. Lots of luck on you. So I will close the last question down with, who would you like to see on Beauties and Beasties next? Who would you like to hear from?
I don't really know enough people in the industry to really put forward. Something I would find very useful would be to understand a little bit more from a builder's point of view with sort of house constructions. I know we've got the sort of drainage guys that have become specialists, but also having a better understanding about where they could be in the houses, rats and how it's constructed. I don't know, just a little bit more information on that.
I know, Hugh, that sounds like a mini series in the making, doesn't it? Because we could speak to the landscape developers, because
Yep.
we blame a lot on them. We can speak to the property developers. How do you think you can fit 18 houses in this car park? This is incredible. There's a whole range. Construction's such a huge industry, but there's so many facets of it which actively seem to sort of like I would say push against our industry, but actually probably make money for our industry, from drainage through to poor foundations through to just bad landscape management. Yeah, definitely.
Even commercial buildings, where are they in the buildings? What have we got to look out for? And on the drainage side, we've got a couple of guys that we, a couple of young lads, they work for a big drainage company, started out on their own. And we spent a lot of time with them. So they understand the rat problems that we have. I know Davy Jones is the god for the industry, but these are a couple of young lads that we spent a lot of time to try and understand from our perspective what you should be looking for from a rat's point of view. That's worked really well. But it would be great to have that understanding for.
No, Terry, you can't have a pay rise.
Sorry?
I said, no, Terry, you can't have a pay rise.
No,
Sorry.
we'll have a look at that and we'll get on it. And Ian, once again, thank you ever so
Thanks,
much
mate.
for your time tonight.
Thank
It's
you,
been
Simon.
really good. And it's, like I say, it's been really good just to have a new and refreshing perspective on just pest management, because it's easy to forget sometimes. So this has been really sort of like good for me. So thank you ever so much for coming on. It's been great chatting to you.
Really enjoyed it.
So
Just
there we
stay on
go.
afterwards for a minute, mate.
Cheers, gents. 0
So,
o'clock.
from all of us here, we'll see you next week. When Hugh, who have we got on next week?
Right, that's the final thing I've got to say. Unfortunately, Sarah can't come on next week from Sarah Miles Shooting. She's quite ill, and so let's send her our best. And we'll have a guest on next week, which I don't know who it is yet.
Well, if anyone has any ideas for who we should get on for next week, email us at beautiesandbeasties@gmail.com and get those in. So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and
Take
girls
care.
of all ages, take care.
Take care.
I'll see you all later.
Great weekend.
Thank you for listening to the Beauties and Beasties podcast.